side, you see Noah Walker, Izzet and Soul, taking on Kevin Hoang, Hardened Scales, and we told you this is not quite the take on Hardened Scales we've seen elsewhere. Craig, what's unique about this deck list?
So we start with the core with the Hardened Scales and the Winding Constrictors. We have Once Upon a Time. We have some Planeswalkers. So it looks similar, but then we've replaced the mana creatures for Experiment 1 and Pelt Collector. There's Rishkar in here, and this deck's just looking to go beatdowns.
Yeah,
right, from the early turn. So if you have those awkward draws, you don't have Hardened Scales, your creatures still have the ability to snowball out of control.
I will tell you, this is what the earlier builds of Hardened Scales looked like in the past. And these were the ones that I think struggled a little bit in the PTQ metagame. But Kevin Hoang saying this deck still has legs. Going to lead with an Experiment 1. Noah Walker attacks with Ginger Brute. Kevin Hoang going to offer up the trade. Experiment 1 heads to the bin, as does the Ginger Brute. Hope of Girapur is the follow-up for Noah Walker. Kevin says, I don't want that on the battlefield either. Just going to play a Walking Ballista on 2, throw a point of damage at the Hope immediately. Kevin looking to keep the battlefield very clean here.
Yeah, this is interesting. I think Noah was a little surprised about the trade with the Ginger Brute there. But Kevin's saying, hey, as long as nothing happens terrible to me in these first couple of turns, my late game is more powerful than yours is.
Yeah, I like Kevin's approach to the matchup. Has a very clear idea how he wants to play it and is looking to execute on that game plan. Here's a Walking Ballista on 2 in response to Noah's Stonecoil Serpent for 3, but here's a big play and Soul Artifact. That's going to make that Stonecoil Serpent an 8/8 Trampler as it rushes into the battlefield. Kevin Hoang going to take a big hit here. Does he have an answer to that Stonecoil Serpent? It'll end the game in a hurry if not.
Yeah, and game 1, Kevin doesn't have a lot of action against a huge creature. He doesn't have removal in his deck. It's all about tussling in combat.
Right. So it looks like his response is going to be his own Stonecoil Serpent, much smaller than Noah's, though.
And this game could just be over.
Noah going to play a Ghostfire Blade, equip Stonecoil Serpent with that. Kevin's going to go ahead and chump. A lot of damage still headed his way, though, and here's a Wild Slash, and that means Noah Walker takes down game 1 just like that. 2 minutes long.
Yeah, and Kevin, I think he thought about blocking there, decided he wasn't blocking.
That makes sense.
And then the burn spell finished him off. But you see the synergies with the Ensoul Artifact, along with creatures that have counters and creatures that have the artifact creatures with good abilities. Getting that 8/8 that also has trample, so huge.
Let me tell you something, Craig. One of the clear signs of a player that's just dialed in and feeling themselves is playing swiftly, playing with confidence. Noah Walker absolutely did that game.
I love the pace of play. All the time we watch Noah, he's always good at navigating the decks that he plays, and it plays at a very brisk pace.
I would say the same of Kevin as well. Kevin looked like he had a very clear plan in that matchup. Just Noah's draw lined up very well, got very big on the battlefield very quickly, and game 1 goes to Noah Walker. We're going to go to sideboards now. We don't have that graphic ready for you quite yet. Oh, yes, we do. Look at that.
Bang.
Graphics just like that. We'll start over on Kevin Hoang's side. There you see 3 Fatal Push, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Noxious Grasp, 2 Blight Beetle, 2 Questing Beast, a Golgari Charm, a Hangerback Walker, and a Scavenging Ooze. Craig, how are you supposed to play this matchup from Kevin's side?
You know what Blight Beetle does?
I know it prevents you from putting counters on everything. Is that correct, or is it just green creatures?
I believe it has protection from green and prevents counters from going on creatures.
Okay.
We'll get that one dialed up. Either way, I'm not even sure I like Blight Beetle in this matchup. It's just such an interesting sideboard card.
Yeah.
I had to bring it up. If I'm on Kevin's side of the board, I think I just want the 3 Fatal Push to come into the deck. There's some interest in something like Questing Beast, where if you think the game's going to be more mid-rangey, it trades with everything because of its Death Touch. It's big on the board. It's a more high-impact card, especially if you're trying to shave a few of your earlier drops. But I would just lean towards cutting some Fatal Pushes. Kevin's going to be on the play this game. Hopefully he comes out with a 1-drop that grows and grows and grows.
Just so you know, Blight Beetle, 1/1 insect protection from green. Creatures your opponents control can't have +1/+1 counters placed on them. Meanwhile, over on Noah's side, we are looking at 3 Stubborn Denial, 3 Roast, 3 The Antiquities War, 2 Blazing Valley, 2 Hangerback Walker, a Mystical Dispute, and a Disdainful Stroke. A lot of control magic there in Noah's sideboard. What do you want to do if you're in Noah's seat?
Yeah, this is interesting to see which way Noah goes. I think the Roast are just easy inclusions. It's such a versatile card because of the amount of damage that it deals. Only 2 mana, and it's going to kill almost anything every time you want it to. And then it's a question of, does he feel like this is a more controlling matchup where it's going to be grindy? They're both playing more removal, and he wants Antiquities War to go over the top in the mid game. So we'll see if he goes that route. Hangerback Walker is kind of a similar card where if you feel like the game slows down a little bit, this creature's going to grow along the way and then produce some 1/1s on the back end, then I can see that card coming in as well.
Yeah, this game, the sideboarding plans here for both players going to be determined a lot by role assessment. What kind of role they want to play in the matchup will dictate exactly what cards they need to achieve that role. And I think there's going to be some jockeying for position as to what deck gets to take which role in these games. Well, Greg, we've watched a lot of Pioneer thus far today, and I will tell you one thing definitively about Pioneer. If you want to participate in this format, you need basic lands. In fact, if you want to participate in almost any Magic format, you need basic lands. And what better place to get those basic lands than the Basic Lands Sale? Head over to go.starcitygames.com/sale, and you will see what we have to offer. There's foil lands, there's unhinged lands, there's the flashiest lands imaginable, right down to the most basic lands imaginable, Craig. And however you want to personalize your deck, basic lands are a great way to do so. What's your basic land of choice, Craig?
Not Snowlands.
Okay, we know that.
I hear we're sold out of Snowlands and no one should be interested in buying them ever.
Okay. Well, Craig has weighed in on that.
Unglued lands.
Okay, Unglued's a good choice. I like the new Unstable lands, I'll be honest with you. I love that borderless look.
So those are like... That is, the original Unglued lands were already a big jump, right? Where you're just like, wow, this is so different.
Yep.
Then you go to the borderless full art lands, and you're just, it's almost not a Magic card anymore.
Yeah, it looks crazy. I love it, though. One of the things I really like about it is when you are playing fetch lands, obviously you can't do that in Pioneer, but I like that you can find them very quickly at just fanning out your deck. I used to play white bordered basics for that reason.
Yep.
I have moved on to the Unstable lands.
Yeah, it's some old unlimited white border lands. Yep.
Absolutely. Looks like Kevin on a mulligan here. Deck doesn't generate a lot of card advantage. We saw that from Edgar Magalhaes last round. His opponent just got enough removal spells to answer everything, and Edgar had a really hard time clawing back into the game. This is obviously a little bit different setup for Kevin, but the same problems are at hand if you have to mulligan a lot.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I think it's important to mulligan because this deck needs to get onto the board early.
Very true.
It's a little less combo-y than the other black-green Constrictor decks that we see, and so it needs that turn 1, Experiment 1, or Pelt Collector, turn 2 play, snowball from there.
Yeah, and Kevin has the Pelt Collector. Noah fires off Blazing Volley. Going to go ahead and kill that Pelt Collector immediately. Follow up Hangerback Walker on 1. Kevin Hoang, powerful 3-mana Planeswalker. It's Nissa entering the battlefield. That's going to go ahead and plus, make a plant.
It's interesting that we see Blazing Volley. You had been talking about cards that you thought should see more play. And Blazing Volley is very similar to those cards that you were listing.
Yeah, I think this is a fine pickup. Here's a Ginger Brute on the offensive. Gonna check that Nissa just a little bit. Turn heads back to Kevin now. A little bit slower start for Noah here.
Well, yeah, both these players are setting up to play a more grindy game. So I'm a little surprised Noah didn't deploy another counter onto his Hangerback Walker on his own turn.
Yeah, that's an interesting decision. Going to go ahead and do so now. Believe in response to this Walking Ballista? No, in response to the Nissa minus?
Not 100% sure, but yeah, Noah definitely trying to get more counters on that ahead of time.
Here you see Blazing Volley. 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Good way to clean up all those mana elves floating around the format. I mentioned Dual Shot, I mentioned Electrickery. All options. Here's another Blazing Volley. Look at this one.
Yeah, it's just going to get
Just Ballista.
the Ballista, but it's important to get that card off of the board.
Agreed.
And he's able to finish off the Nissa in the process.
Yep. Timely Blazing Volley for sure.
But missing a land drop, which is going to be important for Noah as this game moves forward.
Yeah, only 2 mana on Noah's side. Here's a Winding Constrictor that's going to go ahead and put 2 counters on that Experiment 1. And the beats are coming now. There's a 3rd land for Noah. It's like Antiquity's War in hand, I think. Yep.
Okay, and that's the type of high-impact spell that you need.
Shrapnel Blast Roast. Also present in Noah's hand. Here comes Experiment 1. So it's time to cash in Hanger Backwalker. Going to go ahead, put a counter on that. After we've blocked, going to sacrifice it to Shrapnel Blast, kill Winding Constrictor, and bring down 3 1/1 Thopter tokens.
All right.
Saves a lot of life, makes a bunch of blockers, stretches this game out a little bit more, and we know Noah very close to deploying Antiquity's War.
Yeah, these Thopters are great with the Antiquity's War, and he also has that Roast in reserve to finish off the most menacing threat on the other side of the board.
Yep. Skilled Animator from Noah. That's going to go ahead and make one of the Nick Millers a 5/5. And that one's going to get into the red zone. Kevin's going to fall to 15 and takes the turn back. Voracious Hydra in hand, Hardened Scales. Here come the beats from Kevin.
Yeah, this is an interesting spot.
Noah's going to do a little chumping.
So he could have put all 3 creatures in front of the Serpent on the other side, but he would have gotten blown out by that Fatal Push. He made the more conservative play, and it was definitely right in that situation.
Noah drew an Ensoul Artifact, I believe, but already has the Skilled Animator, and that's going to be another attack from the big Nick Miller. Kevin falls to just 10. Here comes Experiment 1 again. Going to go ahead and keep that Stonecoil Serpent back on defense this time. Winding Constrictor once more. This game's tight, Craig.
This game is super tight.
There's another Shrapnel Blast in Noah's hand. Has the Roast as well. Going to go ahead and roast Stonecoil Serpent. 5 more damage headed Kevin's way. No 4th land, though. Noah has to survive this turn. Here's Voracious Hydra.
Oh, and this is going to get the extra counters before it fights.
Going to take down the Skilled Animator. That Nick Miller token getting small. Noah going to take some beats here, but has the Shrapnel Blast in hand, and that's going to do it. Noah Walker takes down Kevin Hoang by the smallest of margins.
And he did a great job of chump blocking when he needed chump block, coming in for some big points of damage at different points.
Absolutely.
He never even hit that 4th land that he needed to unlock some of the cards in his hand. Didn't matter.
I think Noah played that game absolutely perfectly.
Beautifully.
Took exactly the amount of damage he could afford to take, chumped at all the right times, forced through those 5-point chunks.
Yep.
And was able to get the win in a spot where his deck really didn't hit on all cylinders. He was mana restricted in a bunch of spots. There's very efficient removal over on Kevin's side.
Yep.
It felt like he had appropriate answers, but I think I also would point out Kevin also a little mana constrained too, and you felt the difference between his version and the Lotus Box version lacking those elves that we often see in the early game.
The elves are just the explosive element to this deck to me, where